Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. This is your boy, the coach from the WWE. I would like to welcome you to the very first wrestling podcast in the world to take you on a weekly deep dive into classic matches along with legends of the squared circle. Enjoy the discussion. Enjoy the back and forth. There's so much to get into. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the payoff.
Oh, yeah, it's the payoff. Jeff, it's Tom. Here we are, buddy. Savage DDP. How the hell are you doing, my friend?
It's me. It's DDP. I'm doing good, my friend. Like, good stuff. You know, I'm excited about this one as always, but I'm doing not too bad. You know, it's dealing with. Can we say it here? Can I say what's happening in the world? Is this the coronavirus? Is that all right?
I hope it's over by the time that this airs, but I don't think it's going to be.
Am I going to get squashed or blackballed for saying it on air? But
so that is confirmed that's a Vince rule that you cannot mention it, correct?
And apparently being Roman Reigns is verboten too. Like, you know, cutting him out of certain videos and things like that. Like, you know, and it's just crazy. So
yeah. He is a fascinating man.
As we like to say, like Vince gonna Vince. So
yes. So let's get some business out of the way here. As always, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Payoff Pod. That's at Payoff Pod. Jeff, you picked this match. So
I did pick this match, yeah.
Talk about how you came across this one, why you wanted to cover it.
This was another one we had been saying that we were going to start introducing some more WCW matches, kind of, some different people. We've just had a few matches with, some returning people or, people that were, a lot of big names because, yeah, they've been in big matches. And so that's why we've covered them. That's why we talk about them. But this is one that, we've talked about Randy Savage. We have not spent a lot of time talking about DDP. Actually have never talked really about DDP. And so this is one that we just kind of wanted to talk about. And it was one that there was a few that just like, I did some homework and was kind of looking through some different matches and kind of, what were some of the top WCW matches. And while this wasn't like a top 5, it wasn't on multiple lists. It was one that was on a lot of different lists. And so not necessarily at the top, but it was like kind of so it's just one that I'm kind of excited to cover because you and I are learning. I think that the longer we're doing this, we're getting into some matches that you and I don't really remember. And so I think that's kind of exciting for this one. And, just kind of to check that out and see this. And so a lot of different reasons why I'm excited about this one. How about you?
So if I remember correctly, and I'm sure you're going to cover this later, but this won feud of the year, correct?
I don't know if it was feud of the year, but it was up there.
It was up there, yeah. So what I like about that is that means that we probably have a really kick-ass build to this. There's probably a lot of storyline stuff happening. So it's not just, these two had a great match. Like, okay, but what was the personal issue? Like, what led to it? Like, that's what I like about this one is that there was a really good build to this. DDP has often said that, Savage put him on the map or, really elevated his career through this feud, really legitimized him. So I'm pretty pumped to cover this one. And again, I probably during this era, this is certainly like smack dab in the Monday Night Wars era. I definitely watched more WWF than WCW. And I mean, think about it. This is at a time where there's 24 or so pay-per-views on. Well, you're not ordering. I mean, most of us aren't ordering all 24. I'm sure you're at the better part of $1,000 by the end of that. So that's a lot to spend on watching wrestling. Whereas, now you're spending a couple $100 if you ordered everything. So, a lot of this stuff I didn't see. Maybe you'd catch highlights on Nitro, you'd read about it in dirt sheets, but to watch some of these matches is going to be a lot of fun. So I'm pumped to get into this. Jeff, let's get right into the build.
Oh, it's time for the build.
So here we are. We're at Great American Bash 97. You and I have talked about this. I love some of these old WCW names and themes. You know, there's not a lot that WCW did right during a lot of their years, but they came up with some pretty kick-ass pay-per-view names, and then obviously had some really cool, entrances that went along with that. I even think about, were you a big WCW versus NWO N64 fan?
Of course. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I think about them having all the pay-per-view sets, and it was pretty cool coming out to all this stuff. Man, I got to ask, if you went back and played that game right now, would you be like, yeah, this is fun? Or would you be like, this is so stupid, the graphics are terrible, and I can't believe that I actually would play this for hours?
I'd play the hell out of it back then. Nowadays, it's probably super dated, but I have not played, I think I'm more of a gamer than you are, but I have not played the new WWE games because I don't really, I can't get into them. Yeah. There's difference. I don't like the simulation where it's realistic. I want the kind of arcadey, over the top, which is what those were, which they've kind of, 2K has dropped the ball. So they're doing some new stuff with that. That's a different conversation. I think I would probably have more fun playing that than I would some of the more current stuff. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I obviously haven't played it in years, but I'm curious. I'm also curious, what the games are like now, because I haven't in a long time. But yeah, that WCW NWO game.
Everybody played it. Yep.
Well, and then, you could do the 4-way matches, right? So that was the fun part, was playing with 3 other guys, and you'd be, that was a lot of fun. So, So we're smack dab in the middle, Monday Night Wars. We're June 15th, 1997. So this actually took place, interestingly enough, is a little earlier than I would have thought it did. So June 15th, 97, which I guess makes sense. Again, DDP's kind of getting his big break here. 9,600 fans. We're in Moline, Illinois. Okay.
Hot spot for wrestling.
Dude, they went to just some random places, and Bischoff has talked about this on his podcast, but basically just said, yeah, we had some towns that we went to, and we knew we would do well. I have no idea where the hell Moline is, but they got 10,000 fans for a wrestling show and broadcast a pay-per-view.
It is west of Chicago, way west. So, Yeah, it's on the opposite side of the state, pretty much. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yep.
And then the tagline for this, and I guess this was when they were trying to sell pay-per-views, give him a nice warm hug on Father's Day. So I'm assuming this took place on Father's Day.
It was Father's Day. Yep.
All right.
We don't have speaking of the sets, there's just not a whole lot of these good taglines anymore either. WCW did a really good job with those too over the years. Yeah. Well, this is a good one too.
The challenge now is that they don't have to make it into an event like they did then. You're trying to get 30 or 40 bucks from someone. You're within a few weeks of a WWF pay-per-view, right? So, you had to do the taglines, and you had to, really build to something, and the main events mattered. And, now it's, let's defend, 8 of our titles, and maybe we'll do Money in the Bank or Hell in the Cell or whatever. So,
right.
So I'll run through the card for this one. Interesting show. You're gonna see that some names were missing from this. But Ultimo Dragon defeating Psychosis, your traditional cruiserweight kick off the show, fast moving. They went 14 minutes. I was always a big Ultimo Dragon fan. Ironically, especially in the video games. I don't know why, but I thought he was awesome. So
I liked Glacier because he had the super kick. But
good point.
And that was in this match too. My kind of reading, it was kind of the second best match on the card too. So when you're going through some of these other ones, keep in mind it was until the main event here. It was really downhill.
Yeah, and you're going to see, man. Nothing jumps out the page to me, and some of it seems pretty bad. So it doesn't surprise me that the review said that. Harlem Heat defeating the Steiner brothers, Conan defeating Hugh Morris by submission, Glacier defeating Wrath. I guess that was kind of the blow off to that feud. Akira Hokuto, your women's champion, defeated Medusa. That was a title versus career match for the WCW Women's Champion. Jeff, I barely even remember the WCW Women's Championship.
I forgot that it was even a thing until
you
kind of were looking at this. It was a long match, over 10 minutes, though.
Benoit defeated Meng by submission in a death match. Do you have any idea what the rules were for the death match?
I don't. I will see what I can find, but that one, interesting for sure.
I mean, that's a pretty bold stipulation. It's something you'd really have to try hard to deliver on.
Right.
I mean, at least when they do those, over in Japan, it was like, they were falling on light bulbs and lighting each other on fire and stuff. I can't imagine they were doing that in WCW.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kevin Green defeating Steve McMichael. Oh, my God, this must have been terrible. And it went 10 minutes.
That was I don't even think they ranked that one. I think that's how, or it got I think it may have actually gotten negative stars. Yeah.
Oh, he's so clever with his negative stars.
Right.
Dude, this is my worlds colliding. Now, Kevin Green was playing for the Carolina Panthers, but had grown up as a Steeler, which is my hometown team. So it was pretty wild seeing one of your favorite football players wrestling a match. Yeah, our second to last match, the Outsiders, Hall and Nash, they're going to defeat Flair and Rowdy Piper to retain their WCW World Tag Team Champions. That would go 10 minutes. And then the reason we're here, Savage and Page, Falls Count Anywhere. Man, for $30, you really weren't getting a whole hell of a lot here, were you?
This is one that I'm glad I did not spend the money on. Yeah.
And it's sold out.
Yeah, I know, which is the crazy thing.
Yeah, man, what a interesting show. Just not a whole lot happening. And, on the pay-per-view poster for this one, it was all about this match. So this was, this was centered around this Falls Count Anywhere match. But, you don't have a world title match on this show. It's just it was a little odd. I mean, hell, they didn't even have a cruiserweight championship match or a TV title match.
A lot of singles matches. Yeah.
Yeah. Really, really interesting. So, that's all I have. I want to spend more time on the build for this one because, again, I'm sure a lot of our listeners, myself included, probably don't remember a lot of this. So I'm really curious what you came up with.
Yeah, I've actually got a lot on this one, and I have to, like I've had to do in the past. The build here was extended far beyond far beyond this match into the aftermath as well too. And so we had a lot that was going on kind of during this match, which you'll see, or like in the lead up to this match, and then the match itself, you'll see that there was some things in the kind of reviews that incorporated that, but then also there was a lot that happened after. So again, this match, like we said, took place. It was June 1997, but we have to go back 1996 Bash at the Beach. That is one that took place pretty much a year before that July. You had the New World Order, NWO formed. You had Hulk Hogan turning on pretty much everybody and joining the Outsiders, and having that as being the start of the NWO. After they were kind of formed, their kind of main target was Randy Savage. He was, the best way to put it was that he was the leader of the WCW and kind of going against NWO. And of course, everyone knows the history that those two had. But Savage, Hogan, they would have a little bit of a back and forth there, kind of things happening. And so that's where Savage kind of started, at least being in a big part of the picture with this. So you got Halloween Havoc of that year, 1996. You had Savage actually finally facing Hogan. It was for the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. He lost, though, because the Giant interfered in that match. There's some behind-the-scenes stuff with this one, though. Savage actually left the company for a little while. Behind-the-scenes stuff, wasn't happy with booking. we've all heard the stories. And so left for a little bit, wasn't gone for that long though. So he actually returned. It was January 1997. It was an episode of Nitro, where of course real life playing into the storyline, as we're, so used to do. And you and I even joke, if like something happens in the real world, the shoot world that, or, the work world that, you and I always joke, it's only a matter of time before, it becomes a storyline. And sure enough, playing into this, that, Savage saying that he had been blackballed, and, kind of wasn't happy with what was happening. And so having that. So Sting actually got involved with this. When Savage first came back, he kind of had a little bit of back and forth with Sting and things like that. And the two were really, they kind of took the free agents approach, a little bit of Heath Slater in this one, where they weren't really NWO. They weren't really, WCW. They were just kind of there. But of course, Eric Bischoff, now a part of NWO, saying that his Savage's WCW career was over. They only return as if it was as a member of the NWO. And so kind of keeping this build going here, a lot of different people involved in it. You had Sting and Savage, who were kind of working together up till this point. Savage kind of turning, leaving Sting, joining the NWO. He actually helped Hulk Hogan beat Roddy Piper. That was Super Brawl 1997, or Super Brawl 7, 1997. And so just, kind of one of those, typical turns, typical kind of storyline, kind of, going over this whole time. Interesting piece of this too, that he had not really been with Elizabeth this whole time. A different story for a different time at that one, but she was actually a part of the NWO for quite a while, had joined after Savage left. And so now the two of them reunited as part of WCW. Elizabeth being important to this story as well too, a little bit here. So now a member of NWO, both of them. You have Savage, who begins feuding with Diamond Dallas Page, and at the time who was his we didn't know this, but Kimberly, and it started when you actually had a few different things here. One, keep in mind, kayfabe, all that different stuff. We did not know that DDP and Kimberly were actually married in real life. The feud itself, and kind of the build on this one, it lasted from when it started to kind of through this event. It was close to about 8-9 months. And so It was actually a very long program between these guys, which I don't remember that. I don't know about you, but that had escaped me.
I had heard that, but I didn't realize it was that long.
When I started digging into it and realizing just how much interaction that these guys had, it made sense, because I remember them having matches, but I just didn't remember just how much these two had kind of gotten into it. So there was the Lord of the Ring tournament, of course. This was Slamboree 1996. So we're going back in time a little bit here. You had DDP victorious when he defeated the Barbarian. The winner of that one was then the number one contender for the world title, who at the time was the Giant. Page, though, did not get his title shot because, of course, there were shenanigans. It was an over the top. It was shown that Page's foot hit the floor, which by WWE standards, everyone would be eliminated immediately with the nonsense that we see nowadays. And so the match never happened. There was that kind of little back and forth. So DDP actually had a feud with Eddie Guerrero for a little while. I didn't remember that one too. And so there was a little bit of back and forth between them as well. And it was interesting. And so the two of them were feuding, and then the NWO, this is when they were kind of just forming. Hall and Nash, who were actually partnered with Page a little bit before this, and they had been working together before everything happening, they actually were helping DDP to win certain matches, kind of distracting, and that actually helped him win the United States Heavyweight Championship. And so it was a vacant title, tournament, of course, got to love a tournament, all that happening. So, but Hall and Nash did not feel like, the kind of storyline and why they kind of turned on him was they didn't feel like, DDP didn't win the title. It was actually Guerrero. They didn't respect the fact that DDP wasn't living up to his end of the bargain. It was just a whole lot of back and forth between Hall and Nash not being happy, which is why actually Guerrero, I had it wrong there. Guerrero actually won that title. It was actually Starrcade 1996. So kind of getting ahead of this one, or to jump ahead a little bit on this and kind of what's happening and what's going on, that you had the then Macho Man NWO aligned going against DDP. This was DDP still a little bit of the backlash, coming from him, from kind of not respecting Hall and Nash, the outsider. You had the famous, I'm sure you remember, this is the kind of iconic image that I remember, but the spray painting of NWO on DDP's back.
Yep.
That was actually part of the lead up to this, which is when this happened. And so where you get to the Elizabeth and the Kimberly parts of this, it was actually March 1997. And again, I remember it was June 1997, so just a little bit before this happened. It was actually Savage and Miss Elizabeth. It was, we now know that it was a work shoot, but revealed that Paige and Kimberly were married, which became like they were all having a back and forth. It was just a weird.
So when Paige and his wife got involved in a storyline, it didn't lead to divorce, did it?
Not on this time, no. Well, I don't know actually, because they're not married anymore. So
correct. That's it. It's the curse of never, ever, ever allow your. That's why I was like, Rusev, dude, do not get into a storyline with her. Keep her.
And I just finished watching the Benoit stuff. I did not realize, or the Benoit, Dark Side of the Ring. I did not realize that she was married to the promoter who literally booked her to be in a storyline with Chris Benoit, which that piece of it had always escaped me, which is kind of crazy. And so, but because he revealed that, that they were actually married, the two of them had a little bit of back and forth. You actually had Paige's first pay-per-view main event. It was Spring Stampede of that year. The two of them, this was really their kind of first big major match. It was a no DQ match, which Paige was actually victorious in that one. It was just a little bit later, though, which again, this just kind of continued feud that started with, the NWO and WCW and Paige not aligning and respecting NWO and all this other stuff. The two of them had this match at Great American Bash, and all of that feud kind of playing into it. And so I wonder some of the backstage politics, of course, that we now know about, like, if Paige, if he had joined, where he might have gone. I always remember him as not being that NWO guy, so that was a part of this. And so really we're just getting into the build on this one when we get this match.
Yeah, this is a lot happening there, and long feud for sure. I looked it up; it is confirmed. It was the PW Insider, PW Illustrated feud of the year in 1997. So
yes, yep.
People love this, man, and it, like I said, it made Paige. So we'll talk more about that, but really good stuff as always. So let's jump into the payoff here. We're at the 2 hour and 30 minute mark of Great American Bash 1997. Again, that's the 2 hour and 30 minute mark. DDP is about to come out. Great American Bash 1997. Jeff, are you ready?
I'm ready, man. Let's do this.
I said, are you ready?
I am ready. Let's do this.
All right. So with that being said, it's time for the payoff.
Ho! It's time for the payoff.
All right, dude, here we are. The NWO Savage music, he does like an oh yeah in there. Did you like all these guys coming out to the NWO music, or do you think that by the end of a WCW show you would have heard it like 8 times and we're kind of sick of it?
I was fine with it. I think that this is one where I don't think it distinguished any of them, but it really didn't need to either. And so just kind of crazy, but I think it was fine. Yeah.
So there's Kimberly. I mean,
I believe this
I wouldn't put her in my top 5 valets of all time.
I agreed. I don't I believe this was pre Nitro Girls days too. But if you remember, she was a member of the Nitro Girls. And so you have DDP sneaking where Kimberly came out from the stage, which again, a great setup there with the flag and all that good stuff. DDP coming out of the crowd to beat up Savage, who is already in the ring.
So here's a question for you. DDP has his ribs taped, okay, obviously selling an injury. Went for if the Diamond Cutter didn't get it. So, hey, so if you had like fractured ribs or broken ribs, would wrapping medical tape around it matter?
I am not a medical doctor, just like you, but I would believe no. And that is, you are correct. I was going to get into it a little bit later, but that's he is selling some previous injuries from the NWO attacks and things like that, which is why he is taped up. So
yeah, I mean, I got a cracked rib. Let me take some athletic tape and wrap it around my stomach a few times. I wasn't expecting a dive outside the ring by DDP. That was a pleasant surprise.
And we have to know, too, you have both Elizabeth and Kimberly at ringside. And so
both men brought their ex-wives with them?
Yes. And so this was
current wife. DDP, that was his current wife.
And this is one, too, where this was, I say pre it was the Nitro Girls, but it really their storyline involvement, it came a little bit here. That's the story of the Nitro Girls we can save for another day. So kind of I say a quick match already. Like these guys are kind of, DDP really kind of throwing some big clotheslines there, which is kind of good to see.
Well, Kimberly, she led the Nitro Girls, right? Or was it her idea, or she put it together, or she led them?
She helped form them.
Okay.
And so it was, I'm kind of reading real quick. It was kind of 97 or 99. I kind of looking at some kind of quick info and kind of what was happening and things like that. Yes, it was like commercials, and then they do the dance on, when I remember them still doing the dances and things like that. Like it was a different time in wrestling. That's for sure.
I mean, DDP, quite the high flyer this evening.
Which breaking out from the Nitro, you had Stacy Keibler too, was one of the names. If you go a couple different ones, but yeah.
And Shawn Michaels' wife.
Yeah, absolutely. That's right. I forgot about that. So a lot of different names that came through there over the year, but yeah.
Yeah.
So we're now in the crowd, which interesting kind of this one too, which we've talked about that over the rail neck spot before. I think that's just such a great spot that you can't really see anymore.
I still cringe when I see it. I mean, I think it's a great spot.
And so this is one, they are now going deeper into the crowd. And that is, I will never to this day understand how going into the crowd works sometimes, because fans just have the respect to most fans have the respect to not get involved with the match when they're walking through the crowd. It's really surprising how well it goes sometimes. You wouldn't think that, but here we are. So they are now, they're really going into the back at this point. I believe we're heading toward we're in the concourse now.
I mean, to me, not that you want one of these on every show, but man, when they happen, they're just fun to watch.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. So, so this is one too. I'll say, where were you in regards to the, just your overall feelings on the NWO? I think now that we've got the ability of hindsight, was it, we know the behind the scenes stuff, just what are your thoughts on, was it a good idea? How could it have been booked a little differently? Anything like that?
So here's the deal. I mean, when Hogan turned heel, it was probably one of the 3 to 5 most shocking things that I've ever seen as a fan, right? I mean, it's up there with, Lesnar beating The Undertaker and maybe a couple other things of just, oh my God, are you kidding me? Foley being thrown off the cage, right? There's just a handful of times as a wrestling fan that was I was just in shock, right? So the beginning of the NWO, before that 3-on-3 match, immediately following that, and then when they did some of those jumps, when it's wait, is that Ted DiBiase? Wait, is that X-Pac? Wait, and like all the guys jumping, like the joining. But man, it's like, it felt like after not that long, it got really stale. I mean, they put way too many guys in. Then you had the Wolfpack black and white one. I mean, I just felt like it came, it conquered, it was amazing, and then it quickly fizzled out. So just disappointing, man. What about you?
I do remember there were periods near the end there, or not even near the end, where just there were more, I say, wrestlers in NWO than there was in, I say, quote, WCW. Like, just ridiculous, like how many people – they'd have 15 people in the ring, and they were all NWO. Like, yeah. And so and not something you see every day here, too. You've got Macho Man grabbing the chalk bag in his hand now with the handful of chalk, throwing it in DDP's face and blinding him. Just something you don't see every day.
I would assume they just close their eyes when it gets hit there.
It's got to still burn like hell with the sweat and just everything.
That's a good point, right? If some of it sticks on you, but your eye back up and it's still burning out your eyes.
But that's, I feel they have the inhuman ability to like seal, like, cut wounds and things like that, at a inhuman pace. And so, who knows? Some of them, and it's one of those, like, you can't practice for it. You just got to do it and hope for the best. But these still guys, they still got a few more minutes here. It could be quite a while here. It can't be fun, that's for sure.
So do you notice those guys in the front row, they're all wearing Sting shirts?
Oh yeah, I see it.
Okay. The only problem, he wasn't on the show.
Yeah, that's a big one. Yeah, and
that'd be tough. That would suck.
And that's too. And you and I think we going to some shows and we would hoping to see certain people. Like when I went to my AEW show, I was lucky enough to get a Kenny Omega match and be able to say I've seen him live now is just something special. And yeah, going back to what the card was. Other than, you did have like outsiders, Ric Flair and Piper, but you didn't have Hogan. You just didn't have some of the big names at the time here, and we'll get into that in the reviews and things like that. This card is no bueno. And so, all right, ref bump, there we go. So after Savage trying to pull some of that very important tape, as we've talked about, Savage hitting the ref, and then is this going to be a pile driver? Wow. Giving the referee
a stiff one.
A solid pile driver who the referee now dead. And so
look at his shirt off and everything. It was great.
Yeah. And so, but
they're all on their feet, man. They're into this match.
And so that is, yeah. And so, DDP trying to come back here. It's just interesting how, kind of playing out and things like that. And so we still have the ref down, but DDP kind of fighting it off. I know, too, you used to ask me, too, the quarantine, I have not done my DDP yoga in a while. So I'm a little behind. Sorry, DDP.
So hold on. Let me get this straight. So the quarantine is the reason you're blaming not being able to do your at-home workout.
Yeah, pretty much. I'm doing other ones. I'm not doing that one. So trying some different stuff out to kind of, so many of those free apps and things like that. But like, I will say, we have a new ref, another ref bump. Once again, this ref getting tossed to the outside, taking a bump.
The one in the ring's dead.
Yeah, he's still dead. And so, trying some different things out. But I will say, like, doing it and going through a couple of weeks of it, it actually, like, he's saving lives. I get it. It is good stuff. And kind of, I'm not a huge yoga person, but doing DDP trying to push the ref out of the ring now, like, get the hell out of my way. Big clothesline.
Man, so I was curious. Oh, it landed right on him, too. It was great. Yeah, I was curious about Savage because, we've been watching some of his matches, but keep in mind it was also 5, 6, 8 years prior.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And so this is just a different time for Savage, kind of going after Kimberly now at this one. Oh, another ref now. This was a big thing with his match. Another ref kind of trying to stop.
The third ref stopping Randy Savage from punching DDP's wife in the face. He's threatening with the fist. We were living in a different time in 1997, weren't we, Jeff?
You know it's coming, though. You just know it's coming. He's Savage now contemplating what to do with this, the third referee that we now have to deal with.
It's interesting how sometimes the referees are all sitting right there ready to come out, and other times they're nowhere to be found.
You just never know.
Like, it just depends on when they're in the card and stuff, you know?
So we're now kind of working, I say, up the ramp. They're now closer to the stage, or, the entrance stage. DDP had crawled up there.
What the hell's going on back there?
Is that another ring? This is weird.
No, it's not a ring. It's like a little private party. Like they must have won a contest or something.
And so we are now, that is. So this is one. Oh, it's like the Picnic American Bash. Maybe this is the American Bash. So we have a.
It's the great American Bash.
You and I prove. You and I proving it was like a salt glass plate.
Jeez.
So proving that Tom and I don't watch all of these matches ahead of time. Obviously not expecting this.
No, it's great.
Is that Dean's plant, Mitch? Just DDP using a plant that was on. So it's probably about the size of a ring, but like half the height. Set up with like picnic tables. That was good work. Yeah. Wow.
Through a picnic table.
So this got not expecting this. And so we have I'm sure that's against the fire code, but a unlit grill. Ooh. Oh, there was coal dust in the unused grill though.
Yeah, and the grill came off and hit him in the head too. I was not expecting this.
This guy, like I said, this is why I picked this one, because I knew it was I knew that it was a little crazy. I did not expect that. That was not something I read ahead of time, which I'm glad I did not know that was going to happen. And so, while I pull some of the reviews, I do not pull all I try not to read the details, and this is one I did not. So, and they've been all over the arena now. This is one where we've been in the crowd and almost in the concourse. We're now up at the top of the ramp. Again, that stage setup, like you and I had talked about, like I guess just a cool setup that they have right there. And DDP running them back to the ring now. That referee still dead. Like there he is, shirt all untucked, all open.
He's a hell of a pile driver.
Yeah, he took a shot like that. Good for him. What are your thoughts on DDP overall? Do you remember was he a WCW star that you watched?
Yeah, or? Never did anything for me. I mean, I like him as a person. I mean, obviously, really cool guy. You know, love that he started a successful yoga business. You know, he seems like people really like him. He's energetic as hell. Nothing against him personally. I just, as a wrestler, I just never really gravitated towards him. What about you?
I just never remember him getting to the pinnacle. Like I just always remember him being, he's definitely not a mid-carder. And so, definitely not a mid-carder. I feel like that was where he kind of was always at though, because of the people that were in charge of everything. So giving the Diamond Cutter signal, but then Savage kind of fighting him off. The big bump there, as you and I know, the physics of that move would have taken DDP out of the ring, which is exactly what it did. We're still on ref. That is ref number 3.
That's three right now.
We're still at 3 at this point. On the classic, something that we don't see a whole lot of anymore, but used to see all the time, the pulling back of the mats on the floor, trying to set up DDP for something here. We don't know what. Is he going to give him a pile driver as well too? Oh, the ref just getting involved, and there he goes. Ref number 3 down, trying to stop the pile driver from occurring. Oh, no. And now we have a cameraman as well, too. So we're now through 3 refs and a cameraman being attacked.
Shattered this guy's camera.
Just the absolute heel, Randy Savage. But where's DDP going? He's just kind of like walking around over there.
I mean, I don't think...
Chair shot there. We did not expect.
That photographer, I don't think he was like a trained wrestler. I mean, he looked
What's the crowd doing right now? I see arms in the air. So I see him go.
Yeah, they're all standing up.
He's unconscious. There is no referee in
The great
Rain
fucking commentary there. Yeah. Giving them signal for the diamond cutter. I did really like the diamond cutter. Oh, low blow. Diamond cutter was one of my favorites. It's like an RKO, but
yeah, but he was doing it first.
Yep.
Was he the first guy to do that finisher?
That's a good question. I don't know a whole lot about the
I could see maybe
reversed it into a diamond cutter. The fans going crazy. But you have, again, no ref.
But it took something out of DDP as well.
Of course, such a
Both
hard
men
move.
down.
Yep. Both men down. No ref to count it. Here we go.
Fans calling for the ref. Was this a new ref? Oh, no. Scott Hall.
So the ref that got back in the ring, just terrible.
I love Hall wearing his tag team title down to the ring. Going to hit DDP with it. Nope, missed.
And this is Scott Hall in his just prime right here.
He just looks great, right, man?
Yep. It just, taking the knee drop there and just getting, again, calling for diamond cutter. But now Savage, oh my gosh. Like I said, I knew there were shenanigans in this match. I did not realize just how many of them. So we have gone off the rails at this point with now Scott Hall attacking DDP.
Oh.
The Razor's Edge going for it.
Oh,
he almost lost him. Oh my goodness.
Jeez.
Got him with the Razor's Edge. Again, ref. Look at all the just like garbage in the ring,
That's
too,
what they
from
used
these
to do.
guys.
Oh, yeah. That wasn't even from the fans.
Yeah.
Got security down there, bunch of cameramen.
Oh, what's he? Again, attacking the referee.
Oh, he's going for the elbow drop, though.
So DDP laid out Savage going for the elbow drop. Here you go. But no referee.
Without direction. One foul. Oh, man.
Fans are not happy. Well,
we're out of time.
Yeah, I think they're just sending it off.
And immediately off the air.
Wow.
is the main event. So we got a lot to talk about in the aftermath. So Ty, let's get into that and send us off for that.
All right. It's time for the aftermath.
Ho! It's time for the aftermath.
All right, dude. Gut reaction. What'd you think on that one?
That was it went some places I didn't expect it to. But I just a lot of different shenanigans. And like I said, well, I thought it was not a bad match, and we'll kind of share our scores in a little bit here. I had fun watching it. And so, because there were some crazy things happening, and in relation to the story, it makes sense, which we'll talk about. But how about you? What'd you think?
It was okay. Good brawl. Yeah, it wasn't great though. And I gotta tell you, man, like, I get there needing to be some cheating to put the heel over because we want to continue this feud or whatever. But I guess I don't know. It's just a really poor booking. And I've heard Eric Bischoff say that on his podcast, but. And I guess he said that a lot. What I'm about to say, he said a lot. And I guess that really hammers it home what I just watched. But he's like, yeah, we just never had good finishes. Like our matches. And you watch that and you're like, yeah, pretty good match. Really good rivalry. Fans are into it. And the finish sucked.
It just never got they didn't stick the landing. Yeah.
No problem putting Savage over. But I mean,
right.
Liz could have cheated. Savage could have cheated a different way. We were on our fifth referee. I mean, you didn't need to interfere Scott Hall. And then if you were going to bring Scott Hall in, why did he wait until the very end of the match? He could have no holds barred. They could have beat him up during the match. Just, it didn't work. So
Yeah, absolutely. So
this wasn't the blow off to this feud, then, I'm assuming.
No, we actually had a lot of things happening. So at this point, they were kind of 1-1 with their matches. So of course you had, Savage defeating Page, who was then helped from who was at the time the tag champ. Like we said, the belt getting involved, Scott Hall. There's actually Bash at the Beach just a couple weeks later, though. You had Scott Hall and Randy Savage teaming up after this one. They were taking on DDP and Curt Hennig. Curt Hennig won. It was one that actually DDP recruited from WWE to come over to WCW. It was kind of the research that I was kind of looking at. He was instrumental in that. But, Curt Hennig actually turning on DDP at this Bash at the Beach match. And so you had him in a tag team at this point. So then you had, again, it was Fall Brawl of that year, Page teaming with Lex Luger, where the two of them beating Scott Hall and Randy Savage. It was a no DQ match. So it had some interesting things here. So kind of a weird little piece to this too is you had Page when he was dressed up, and I did not remember this, but dressing up as the masked wrestler La Parka. La Parka beat Savage on a Monday Nitro episode. But it was also at the same time where Page was kind of feuding with Hollywood Hogan, who of course was the NWO leader. And so, head of it, whatever you want to call it. So the two of them, though, they had their last match, if you will, kind of in this feud. It was settled at Halloween Havoc 1997. This was, of course, the same night as the fabled Rey Mysterio versus Eddie match.
Oh, yeah.
This match, though, billed, it was a Las Vegas sudden death match. Just to clear that up, we have Chicago Street Fight. You got, Las Vegas sudden death. This is just a last man standing count, or at least, last man standing for a 10 count. And so not, this is what they name it. That's what it was. And so it kind of interesting how this was playing out, though, but you had Savage, who actually pinned Page, who after Hogan, who was dressed as Sting, again, just getting weird here, came out. He hit DDP with the baseball bat. Of course, Page still taped up as always in this one, which resulted in Savage winning or picking up the win. So overall, Savage, I think, got the better of him if you're kind of just going by the record here. But they wrestled for another couple of months, like all the way up to this Halloween Havoc October. So a few months after this, the feud's kind of going back and forth. And so, again, though, like just kind of how this played out and kind of the storylines post all of this, after you actually Page taking on Hogan, but just kept getting beaten down by the NWO. It's one of those where the NWO keeping everybody down. But of course, it was actually Starrcade 1997, one that we have to talk about. This was December 28th, so it was the end of the year. You actually have Page winning the United States Championship from Curt Hennig, so nice way to kind of cap off the year for him. But later, though, 1998, we will talk about it at a later time, but of course we can't not talk about Page eventually tagging the famous match, as you and I know, DDP and Karl Malone against Hulk Hogan and Dennis Rodman at Bash at the Beach the following year.
And all of a sudden back in the news because of Rodman's 30 for 30 and then the Michael Jordan one.
Yeah, absolutely. And so just kind of funny how that played out. And so this was one, though, interesting. So the kind of the last piece of the story that I'll share, there was actually Page actually won the War Games event that they used to do all the time, and I'm a fan of that one. But he actually got a shot against Goldberg, who was still undefeated. It's Halloween Havoc 1998.
Yep.
The Goldberg DDP Halloween Havoc 1998 match. Yes, DDP lost that one. This was actually voted, though, WCW's Magazine Match of the Year for 1998. The bar was pretty high that year, though, because the overall PWI match of the year was, of course, 1998, the Hell in a Cell Undertaker versus Mankind. And so a very interesting dichotomy there between what the WWF was doing versus what WCW was doing. And like you said, finishes and, it just kind of craziness happening. And so, Yeah, and Savage was out, kind of injuries and kind of in the story, but not a ton happening, and so lots of good stuff though. Just kind of fun, I guess. Just typical playing out where this match kind of where it fell was really in the middle of a lot of other things, but still interesting how it played out. So, you got any thoughts, Tom, on any of that?
No, but just the one thing, like you said, in terms of match of the year, is WCW just didn't have a lot of good wrestling during this era. They sold a lot of pay-per-views. The product was insanely hot, but the wrestling was not that great. I mean, some of it's just by nature of having some older, bigger guys at the top of the card. But, outside of the cruiserweights, I mean, there's a lot of shitty matches on these shows. And then the main events usually were not great wrestling at all. And some of them were, just colossal train wrecks like Hogan and Warrior doing their match.
Yeah, absolutely. So getting into some of the scores here,
just because like, they were it almost like flipped, right? Because like WCW, NWA back in like the 90s and early 90s, they had some great wrestling on top.
Yeah.
Guys like Flair and Steamboat. I mean, great wrestling. And then it just kind of fell by the wayside. And I think that WWF actually started to put together better wrestling, especially in the main events. So,
yeah, no, and this is one. So a few things here. So like you said, I've been adding it to our shows lately, but these guys, 1997, DDP was actually number 4 on the PWI, which I thought was pretty high. Like I was surprised by that. And then Savage, though, number 19. The match of the year, 1997, according to them, though, and this was didn't surprise me when I read it. It was, of course, the WrestleMania 13 Bret Hart versus Stone Cold, and then no DQ submission match where you had Ken Shamrock as the special guest referee, which is just a great one. And so, and you had said was this the feud of the year, 1997? Yes, it absolutely was. But I thought it was interesting because they won the feud of the year. Bret Hart and Stone Cold had the match of the year. Bret Hart and Stone Cold were actually the runner-up for match or feud of the year, excuse me. And so I thought that was just interesting how, one of the match, one feud of the year. So I don't know if that was how they did it, to give a little bit of respect to both, but who knows? So, so a couple different write-ups here. I thought it was kind of interesting, and I'll just kind of read a couple, a couple different things of how this played out. So one of the kind of beat writers that I was, following up and kind of seeing what was here was Dallas Page was terrific in the main event, and Savage had his working boots on as well. They did some interesting work with foreign objects and maintained a feverish intensity for the entire bout. I was thankful not to see Hogan or Bischoff or Sting show up, spoiling the work of the two men. Too often in wrestling, the spotlight is taken away from those who deserve it.
Did he miss the ending with Scott Hall coming in?
Yeah, tonight they kept it where it belonged. One of the few pay-per-views I can actually say was worth both the money and time. Please try to do it again. I'd say one match that was worth the time and money. Definitely not the whole pay-per-view. Wade Keller, though, as Savage raised his hand, Shivani said they were out of time and closed out the program. Very good match for a variety of reasons. It told a consistent, believable story from start to finish, but didn't rely on the story alone, as there were numerous smart bumps and intense exchanges in and out of the ring that kept the crowd into it and gave the fight a realistic edge. Savage succeeded tremendously in coming across as a totally out of control asshole, especially in attacking the photographer for no reason. Page played well to the crowd. The finish wasn't satisfying because of the controversy, but since it wasn't the blow-off match of the feud, that was to be expected. It lived up to its main event billing. It was better than it was a better match than the Steve Austin versus Shawn Michaels 7 day earlier. So, and now that match would have been, was that the Mania match? No. I forget in 1997 which match that would have been.
I'm sorry, 97 what?
It was the Stone Cold. The line was, it lived up to its main event billing. It was a better match than Steve Austin versus Shawn Michaels 7 days earlier. So what was 7 days?
No. So they had a match at, it was either King of the Ring or In Your House in 97. It might have been, God, don't quote me on this, but it might have been like In Your House, Cold Day in Hell, or it was, but King of the Ring. Okay, yep. There you go.
And this was their,
and they might have been tag team champions at the same time, if I'm remembering correctly, the two of them.
It was a double DQ was how that match ended.
Yeah.
So interesting take on that. And then one other one, of course, our favorite on the show here, Dave Meltzer. It was a rather uneventful show as far as advancing the storyline and got a mixed response. I thought it was a good show, mixing up good, bad, and average matches, most of which came across better than they figured to be on paper, with largely strong booking that had a purpose and storylines within the matches. And exactly how many referees were knocked out versus this match, which was only made
4, right? Was it 4?
3, yeah. And so plus 3 and a photographer. So which was only made worse because as Savage was dropping referees, it was looking way too similar to the Steve Austin and Shawn Michaels match that took place 7 days earlier. Yeah, the King of the Ring 1997. So this is one that you had. Wade gave it 4.25 stars. Dave gave it 3 3/4 stars.
Jeez.
So I don't see it. Or get into it. Yes, please.
Yeah. So my guess on this is, because of the nature of what it was, kind of a street fight brawl, maybe it was better in that era than it would be now because of all the stuff that we've seen. Like, man, that felt to me like a Raw match, not a pay-per-view match. I mean, I thought it was solid, but keep in mind that main evented this show.
Yeah.
And it main evented a pretty shitty show. So it's not as if, it shouldn't have been at the end of the show, but it was they put everything into that match and I just didn't think it delivered. So, good build, good long storyline. Both guys are good. They worked hard, but it just fell flat for me. And again, I'm trying to, say, hey, maybe in that era it was a little better, but again, you're comparing it to Steve Austin and Bret Hart, so it doesn't compare. So Jeff, I'm going to give this one a 5.
And that's actually right where I'm sitting too.
Really?
Because I think that there was some good spots in it, and like if it's as a standalone, it was okay. But knowing what we know in regards to like and we take everything into account here, like it really was a blow off match in regards to like what we were getting, down the road. And I don't like, while it was, I would say the feud outpaced the matches. I don't know if it was maybe the people in it or what it was, but it was good. It's great to see a long build, but it's also one where I just don't think, it was, I wasn't super excited about the match. I enjoyed some of the spots, but overall I can't give it more than that.
Ugh.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
final thoughts.
Final thoughts are, let me say the positive, which is, I thought DDP was really good in the ring. I thought Savage was pretty good in the ring. Savage still looked really good, man. The guy could still go in 97. I feel like, and again, you're talking about a guy that has, I have on my Mount Rushmore, but I just didn't feel like he was used as well in WCW as he should have been. I didn't feel like he did a lot that was all that memorable. The guy could still work and obviously still had the gift of gab, could talk, and everyone loves the Macho Man. I just got to think that, I don't know, man, maybe don't put him in the NWO, keep him a good guy, something, but it just wasn't clicking for me in this era. You know what it looked like? It looked like the guy was collecting a paycheck. And I think a lot of people in WCW were. And it's, who's going to tell you they did their best work in WCW after they left the WWF? Not many guys, right?
Right. Absolutely.
So I mean, even Nash and Hall, right? I mean, they did these great things. They made a lot of money, but people still remember Razor and Diesel and their matches and feuds more. So,
Right.
Yeah, man, that's all I have for this, but good one. And go ahead and close us out.
Not bad. I can understand why it was on, some lists, but I can also understand why it was not at the top of some lists. So, but good stuff. Of course, DDP. I do recommend I don't know if there's a trial version out there, and this is just my plug.
There's got to be a week free trial or something.
Yeah, it's definitely worth it just to do it. Kind of starting slow, things like that. So it's good to see. But DDP on Twitter, very active, always kind of retweeting people doing yoga. He's at Real DDP, and so make sure to check him out there and get that for you. So, and of course, make sure you're subscribing to the show. Give us those 5 stars, positive reviews, spread the word about the show. We love that. And so, as things kind of, hopefully soon we can get back to, keep sharing with us on Twitter your thoughts and all that good stuff. We'll get some koozies out to some people, things like that, kind of sharing with everybody. So, Tommy, want to take us home? What you got?
Yeah, well, I'll just say that, I don't use DDP yoga, but, man, I'll tell you, the guy who really swears by it is Chris Jericho, and that's a guy that's, almost 50 years old and still bumping and saying he feels great. So I think that's about as good of an endorsement as you're going to get.
Yeah, absolutely. And and anymore, I trust Jericho as being just behind the scenes. I think there's a lot about him we don't know, but he's extremely supportive. Yeah.
I just don't like that he plays a heel on TV and he's a babyface on his podcast.
Yeah, that he is. Right.
It's tough. It's tough to be at the gym listening to him, yakking it up with the guy he's feuding with and being all nice. And then, cutting a promo that you can tell is in character. And again, I look, you can call me a mark, say whatever, but the reality is it's really tough to, be sitting there watching somebody acting one way and then a day later acting a completely different way, and you're supposed to suspend belief.
Yeah, it's just not how it works. Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and that's one too, because I was looking the other day too. I did not realize 2 bottles of a little bit of the bubbly, $46. So I feel like it's a little pricey for some sparkling wine, but yes, wrestling fans are crazy like that. So.
Yeah, right.
But, all right. Well, send us home, my friend. Yeah.
All right. Well, as always, thank you for joining us on The Payoff.